So here we are, the most coveted year-end video, GPX Japan's Games of the Year 2022. It was quite a bombastic year. There were plenty of massive hits to gorge on. However, here at GPX Japan, we look at our Games of the Year as games we played in 2022. It doesn't have to be released this year to qualify. Unlike our competitors, we just focus on games that we played, new or old, that help define our year. It's hard enough securing a PS5 or Series X these days, let alone having the bank loan to build a solid PC. Games are meant for everyone to enjoy, and there is certainly no rush to enjoy them. With that, here are our picks for Games of the Year.
This year I made a deal with the devil and got down and dirty with Cuphead. It was perfect timing too, since the delicious last course was ready to be served just a few weeks after I completed the game, and what a meal it was. From beginning to end, Cuphead brings the challenge and doesn't pull any punches. You'll have to learn fast and shake the dust off those Twitch fibers, or you'll be going ghost one too many times. I was personally bested hundreds and hundreds of times, and while it may be enough to put some people off, there's nothing better than the satisfaction of clearing a stage after so many close calls. I played a lot of fantastic games this year, but for me, the magic that is Cuphead stood out among the rest. The animation is gorgeous. Just look at these backgrounds. The time and care put into them is enough to marvel for hours on end. Just be sure you're dipping and dodging in the meantime. The gameplay is a real wallop, but it doesn't punish you in unfair ways. You'll never feel cheated playing Cuphead. I clearly saw my mistakes that I had made, and it's what pushed me to try harder, hit the retry button, and overcome the enemies. The music will make you tap your toes. And you'd think it'd be hard to do with just how hard the game is, but the tunes are just so great. That big band sound that the game has fits the aesthetic to a T. And of course, the story is a good old time. Cuphead lost while gambling and now has to get the soul contracts of everyone on the devil's list. And these aren't a ragtag group of pushovers either. You ever go toe-to-toe with the Moonshine Mob? How about trying to take Brinny Beard's booty? I didn't think so. However, I will say that some of the bosses, like Grim Matchstick, didn't really bother me like they did some other people, so I don't know, maybe I just got lucky. The DLC gives us more of what we wanted, and it doesn't let up on the punishingly difficult boss battles. Right off the bat, Glumstone the Giant will come out swinging, and it's only the beginning of your troubles. In particular, I loved the parry bosses. No longer can you use your trusty pea shooter, and it's all about the bounce. With power-ups to buy and side-scrolling levels to complete, you can change up Cuphead, Mugman, and now Miss Chalice to your liking. You'll be running and gunning, standing and slinging, and flying and diving. Give it a try. It's Cuphead, my game of the year and one of the best games I've ever played. Kirby and the Forgotten Land may not be the most technically impressive game we've had this year, but it's definitely my game of the year. This is the first actual 3D Kirby game, and the team really made something special. Perfectly translating the 2D nature of the side-scrolling Kirby games into this open 3D environment to explore, and plenty of secrets to discover. Kirby controls so nicely in this new world, and the mechanic of upgrading copy abilities is also a nice addition, as they, for the most part, slightly tweak the ability and provide a pretty nice power boost as well as the newly added Mouthful mode, which helps Kirby utilize objects to solve puzzles and progress. The whole premise is rescuing Waddle Dees that have been captured by finding them trapped in cages or completing certain level achievements. By saving the Waddle Dees, the town is able to expand, which allows for more features. It really is a rewarding experience. Sure, I understand that it didn't do anything too groundbreaking, but what it did very well. Especially with the unique environments such as an abandoned mall showing its age with flickering lights and rubble strewn across the floor, a fiery factory filled with death traps, or even an amusement park with moss-covered buildings and rusty rides. There's so much detail and care put into even the level backgrounds. It's great. While the land that Kirby explores may be forgotten, this game definitely won't be.
Greetings from the Binkster here. I decided to give my Game of the Year to a severely undervalued gem, one that managed to surprise me with how good it was despite the unrivaled avalanche of crapola it received. That's right, it's Sonic Frontiers. Sonic Frontiers is the new next-gen Sonic game, and it doesn't disappoint. Effortlessly combining the wide-open islands akin to Breath of the Wild with Sonic speed, as well as the hunting of memory tokens like moons with Mario Odyssey, this game has a lot, and it does it all pretty well. In the islands, there's always something to do, be it heinous mini-bosses or challenges to fill out the map. Side stories to uncover the lore, and a vast amount of memory tokens available to advance the story. The cyberspace zones offer classic 2D and 3D styles of play that we've come to love and sometimes grown at. And if you want to blow the game off entirely, you can always fish with Big, who is somehow tangible and has everything you need. The story is a little more in-depth this time, focusing primarily on the history of the Sonic universe and how it came to be. The characters all seem to take a more serious, introspective tone here than previous installments, and it really shows their growth throughout the Sonic series and the game itself. This is also the first time we've seen Sonic in combat so fleshed out. Rather than just mashing homing attack or the werehog herd button to beat enemies, they're designed well enough that it will take a combination of the stylistic Psyloop and a plethora of skills, all cool and useful, to defeat them. One can't talk about Frontiers without mentioning the music. It's a genre-spanner thrill ride of classical movements for the islands, EDM bangers for the cyberspace zones, and wicked, epically rockin' vocal themes for the big bosses. It's one of the most versatile soundtracks out there in the modern era of video games. Sure, like every game, apart from Elden Ring and Ragnarok for some reason, Sonic Frontiers has its drawbacks. The single jump having almost no maneuverability, the final boss lacking tears, the cyberspace zones completely lacking in visual design variation, and the forced 2D sections in the islands. Though, these drawbacks won't stop you from having a really good time. To sum up, Sonic Frontiers is a great next-gen Sonic game that runs smooth, especially on next-gen consoles. It offers more depth and more options than before, and sets the series on an upward trajectory. It's great for newcomers and series stands alike, so don't listen to the gratuitously negative clickbait bias. Listen to me, and my Game of the Year stamp.
My Game of the Year is a hard one to decide. If I could pick a game I play the most, then I would say Mario Strikers Battle League. Despite what the critics say, it's a fantastic game, easy to pick up, but nuanced and complex in its mastery. However, I believe the Game of the Year should be something unique, life-changing, thought-provoking, be it in its artistry, gameplay, or storytelling. And in that end, one game truly won my heart like no other, and that game is Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Yes, despite Elden Ring, despite God of War, the story that stayed with me the most, the combat that challenged me the most, the visuals that inspired me the most, all of it belongs to Xenoblade Chronicles 3. You don't need to play the previous two entries to fully enjoy this. Just jump in and you'll begin to piece things together very quickly. I can go on and on about the technical feats of this game. Puts a lot of other Switch games to shame. But I'm sure people far more eloquent than myself have said things far better. The story is about being enslaved in a world where you're not expected to live past a certain age. Warring factions are intertwined in a never-ending battle, and it is up to you to find out the truth behind enemy lines. Among all this chaos, sworn enemies realize that they aren't so different, and they band together to fight the very system that perpetuates hate and war on both sides of the line.
Being in this pandemic for 3 years, hearing all these woes and fears, it really got to me. Games like The Last of Us Part 2 seem to capitalize on that kind of hatred, and despite its popularity, I'm kind of tired of Game of Thrones. This whole everyone betraying each other and secretly plotting and scheming, it's just so bleak, it's so dire, and honestly it's not as realistic as we tell ourselves. Humanity is about hope, and Xenoblade is written immaculately. It's about why we love superheroes, why we root for the underdog, why we cry tears of joy when we see the hero return. At its core, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is a game about hope and humanity. I can't tell you how hard it is to find a game that gets that good part of us, that light inside of us, so right. It's honestly what I needed this year more than ever. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 kept me guessing. The combat mechanics kept evolving. The music is quite possibly the best orchestral arrangement of the year, if not of all time. Maybe only second to Sonic Frontiers. It's one of the most fascinating, well-written, well-acted, bombastically cinematic games of the year. Not since Metal Gear Solid 2 and its philosophical ending have I ever finished a game that left me with such hope. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is an absolute gem. It's quite possibly the best game Monolith Software has ever made, the best game Nintendo has ever published. Certainly in a year filled with such amazing titles such as God of War and Elden Ring, it still stands tall and proud. And honestly, it is my game of the year.
So everyone, with that we cap off 2022. It was a great year for gaming, but we think 2023 will be even better. What was your game of the year? Agree? Disagree with our picks? Let us know in the comments, we'd love to hear from you. And as always, thanks again for tuning into GPX Japan. Here's to a stellar 2023.